Hi, this is Mike Valier and Amy Pratt. We're both math consultants in the Instructional Services Department at KRESA. So as we're all venturing into this new world of virtual education, Mike and I just thought that we would put together some videos in which we share just some of our ideas of some things that you might be able to use during your live teaching sessions with students.
These activities are intended to be quick, engaging practice of skills and fluency activities, but not things that you would use to teach new concepts. They should be easy enough that you can do them, deliver these virtually. Also something that you should be able to send to your parents and have them do with their kids at home outside of school. So I hope you enjoy them. I hope they help. All right, we're recording, so whenever you're ready, or whenever I'm ready, actually. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, so we're going to show you some different ways to use 10 frames. We're talking about a couple of different things that kids can do with them. One of them is this idea of subitizing, and if you haven't heard that word before, that's okay. We're talking about kids being able to know how many items they're looking at without having to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which at first they will do, of course. But just like rolling a dice, at some point they're going to get to this point where they can see it and just know how many it is. And then we're going to use the 10 frames. What we want to have kids do is start to build this idea, of a set of 5 things or a set of 10 things that they can build up to, so that they can start to compose and decompose larger numbers. They're going to start to be able to get into some place value ideas. And we'll get into that some more. And I think the first thing we're gonna start with is getting into the 5 and 10 frames.
Okay, so when you're using 10 frames, first thing to think about is obviously, where your students are at with this. So when we use 10 frames, we typically think about it as like 3 different levels or progression. So first we would work within 5. Then within 10, and then within 20. So we're going to just show you some quick examples of what you might do with students. We're going to start within 5. So Mike's going to actually be holding up the 10 frames, and I'm going to be talking you through the activities because he has his materials at home with him and I do not. Okay, so first, obviously, make sure you introduce as he's showing you now, this is the 5 frame. Oh, and the other thing that I want to make sure we mention too is that we are going to include with you some resources too. So we'll include a link to a site that has printables, as well as I'm going to show you a virtual site here in a minute. Okay, so introduce the 5 frame. Make sure students understand that when it's all full, they see 5 dots. They know that's 5. Okay, so Mike is going to just do now like a quick flash of a number within 5. So now think about this, you're teaching your students, so this is the part that you would actually start doing right here. Okay, go ahead, Mike. Okay, so he flashed it for just a couple of seconds. We don't want to give students enough time to count the dots. The goal here is for them to recognize that that was the number 3 without having to count. So the question then that you would ask is, okay, how many did you see? Now with your students, we have a few options for how you might want them to respond. So with that one, maybe you just have them, if it's easier, just have them hold up on their fingers that they saw 3 dots. You might, if you want to have students practicing with, numeral cards. So you could, if students have a set of numeral cards at home with them, which is something you might have to think about in advance to maybe send home at like a packet pickup. But that would be a way for students to be practicing their numeral recognition as well. So if you if they have those numeral cards, they could just hold up that they saw the number 3. And a last or another option might be to have them write the number 3 if you'd like to have them practicing writing their numbers as well, and they could just hold that up maybe on a piece of paper or a whiteboard that they saw 3 dots. Let's see. Okay, Mike, do you want to just do one more of those? So we'll just do one more within 5 before we move to within 10. Okay, so we flash it. How many did you see? Have students respond in one of those ways. And Mike, is there anything that I did not cover on the within 5 that we should add in?
No, I was thinking about, speaking of the technology part of it, if you're doing Zoom like we are, when I see myself, I see a mirror image of myself, but you don't. So when we think about kids counting left to right or right to left, to me this looks like right to left, but I think to you it looks like left to right. Is that right, Amy? Okay.
Yeah.
So thinking about how you're holding these, you do want it so that they're counting left to right. So you're holding it the opposite way. This is my right shoulder for me, but it doesn't look like that because of the mirror imaging. So you think about how you're going to position those.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Thank you.
Once I started putting them up, I realized, yeah, this is
that they're backwards. Okay, so now we'll move to within 10. So previously we're using a 5 frame. Now we're just going to bump that up to a 10 frame. So when you're working within 10, a couple things to keep in mind is there's really a couple of different configurations of the dots that we want to focus on. So Mike's holding up a full 10 frame. So again, just introduce the 10 frame, make sure students understand that, you know, if it's all full with all the boxes are filled up, then we know it's a 10. So the first one Mike's going to hold up is something that we call a 5+ configuration, or a 5+, you know, number that you're working on. So notice that the top row is all full, so that's 5 dots, and then 1 more. So again, to do this activity with students, we would just flash that just briefly. Ask students. Say that one more time.
Change the number on you.
Okay, all right, good. Keeping me on my toes. Okay, so he flashed that. We asked students how many did they see. Now, especially as you're getting into these larger numbers, it's going to be really important for kids to share how they saw the configuration. So I would ask for some type of a whole class response, or if you're working with a small group, have all the students respond initially with how many they saw, so they can, again, with this 5 group configuration, it works really nicely to have them show on fingers because it's 5 and then some more, so that was 8. But then maybe think about unmuting a couple of students to share how they saw it. So they may say, you know, I saw 5 on the top, 3 more on the bottom, and I know that's 8.
Say, well, I know that there was 2 empty ones, so I know there's going to be 8.
Exactly. Thank you. So the other piece that you can do here with 10 frames, and this really goes more into the idea of addition and subtraction, but when we think about composing numbers, is to then ask students, like Mike was saying, how many more would it take to make 10? And so that's another layer that you may want to add in as you continue to work with these, if you're working with students on, you know, composing a 10 or composing an 8. Okay, so next, Mike, I'm going to actually bring up my screen here so that I can share with you guys an online tool. So let me just get this pulled up.
Matt, I'm going to say something about we started with the 5 frames, and then when we went to the 10 frames, we used the fact that the top is a full 5 frame. So that's, you know, they have already gotten that part. So by the time we go here, they know that's 5 without having to count it, because we did that work with the 5 frames.
Good. Yes, thank you. Okay, so I just wanted to show you here too a tool. We're gonna include this link for you guys. But this is basically just where you can build your own 10 frames, and then you can set up using this little tool down here that looks like a screen or a shade that you're pulling closed. You can cover up the 10 frames. So I have 10 frames behind here that I've pre-built, and then I have them covered up. So this is another tool you can use with your students. So you could do a quick flash like this, and then cover that back up. So basically accomplishing the same thing that we were just doing with the printed 10 frames. Now, neither Mike nor I had 10 frames at home with us that were of the second configuration that we want to talk about, and that's the doubles configuration. So as you saw in this first one, I built 7, and I built it in the 5+ way, so 5 and 2 more. Over here, I built 7, but I did this in what we call the, doubles configuration. So in this one, students, they may see it in a variety of ways, but we've built it to kind of help them see that 7 is, we could use a doubles fact like 6 and then 1 more, or we could use the doubles fact 8 and 1 less. And notice I used 2 different colors here to really try to, help students see that doubles fact and then the 1 more. Mike, is there anything you'd like to add on that one?
No, I think you covered that pretty well. That's perfect.
Okay. And this is really cool to play around with, guys. It only takes just, it's very quick to build one. So I'll just show you here. And, I'm not really all that techy. So you can just choose a 10 frame. I can drop, 5 dots in there, drop another one. I can create a shade and so you can have these pre-made. And when you go to do the quick lesson with your students, just, with these shades on there, you can easily do a quick flash like that.
Yeah. So we've built 5 frames. We've described the combinations up to 5. Then we use that to start building combinations up to 10. Get those 2 landmark numbers, or those 2 that we build from. And then we go up to 20. So I've got some smaller 10 frames. Now there's also, we can get 20 frames. I don't have those with me right now, but what I'm going to use is a full 10 frame and then another one. And I'm going to put these side by side. That if you get the actual 20 frames, there wouldn't be that little section in between. It just looks like a whole big thing. And we'll make sure that there's a link so that you can find some of those and print them out. But what I've got now is I've got 10 on this side and the rest over here. What I might want to talk about is that there's actually 10 across the top and then the rest on the bottom. There's 2 different ways that kids can talk about it. I'm going to go to a smaller number though. I'm going to use this, and we're doing the same thing as we did with the 5s and with the 10s. Is how much was that? Oh, I saw 10 over there and I saw 2 here, so 10 and 2 is 12. At some point we might just show them like this, especially if we've got a bunch of 10s together, but right now we're trying to build those combinations that build off of 10 all the way up to 20. So I'll show you another one, especially building off of some of the other numbers that we've already used. Excuse me, not that one. We use this one right here, I think. And I'll set this up and go like that. And oh, I saw the 10 and then I saw that 7 because the 7 had 5 and 2 in it, and all the different ways that we can describe these quantities. We're doing the same thing again and again and again. We're just raising the numbers we work with, using the 5 frames to build sets of 5, using those then to build up to 10s, using the 10s then to build up to the teen numbers and into the 20s, and all of this using just these printable 10 frames, 5 frames, 10 frames, and 20 frames. Now, if I use, let me go back to, excuse me, I'm going to do this combination right here. And I set up, and kids say, well, that's 13, because I know it's 10 plus 3 is 13. I go, okay, watch now. I'm going to change it just a little bit. And I do this. And now this is where I like to have, there's a whole bunch of different combinations of things that you can try. But if you notice now, instead of the 10, it's 9. So where we started off talking about this subitizing and understanding the relationships and numbers, now we're starting to move that into what it means to add and subtract across 10. So where here was 10 and 3 is 13, now instead of 10, it's 9 and 3 oh, so if I take one of those dots here, move it, I've got 10 and 2. Well, 10 and 2 is 12. So 9 and 3 is also 12. So by going with something that I've built an understanding of tens, then I can go to, well, let's use that to do our nines. And we can also use that to some extent to do our eights. Oh, well, I'm going to take 2 of those and move it over. So then I've got 10 and 1 to make 11. And it all comes back to my understanding of the tens, which came from my fives. Amy, anything to add into that?
No, I was just, as you were demonstrating that, I was just thinking in my mind that, you know, this really spans K2 and, well, and beyond if students are still not fluent with their facts within 20, but this really sets the foundation for that fluency piece. So rather than kids just trying to memorize facts, this is that visual support where they're actually seeing, if they see a fact on their paper, 9 plus 3, they're actually visualizing in their mind, oh, you know what? I know what that 9 dots looks like and those 3 dots. And then, you know, I'm shifting that one over. It, you know, gives that extra support for students and makes it visual. And, you know, even in second grade, we're still working on fluency within 20. And so just thinking about how this is a really great tool that spans a lot of grade levels.
Yeah, with adding, there are times when we expect kids are going to use counting, but we also want to build in them this understanding of the network of relationships between these numbers, and that we can use those to do some more flexible thinking about what we're doing. You know, if you're asking me to add 9 plus something, I don't have to go through and think about all my 9s, but I can use what I know about 10s to do 9s. And
right.
With 8s, I don't have a Rolodex of 8s in my head, but I know my 10s really well, and I know the relationship from 8s to 10s, and I can work things out pretty quickly and efficiently by understanding those numbers and the relationships. So yeah, so a lot of different things that we can do with 5 frames, 10 frames, 20 frames. All of them should be something that if you're going to do it in a setting like this, in the variety of ways that you're going to have kids respond to you, you can show it. You can do the virtual one that Amy showed. But then all of these, you should be able to, with a little bit of student training, be able to send these things home with your parents with a simple instruction of, you know, telling the directions for the parents are draw a 10 frame and hold it up for a half a second. And just that's it, and that's pretty easy to ask parents to do. You can do that, you know, while you're making dinner or whatever, every day. And at some point they're going to be so quick at it. Okay, I need to make it a little more difficult.
All right, so that wraps up our video today on 10 frames. We'd love to hear from you guys. If you've tried any of these things with your students, you know, feel free to reach out. We're gonna include our contact information at the end of this video, and you know, please provide us feedback as well if there's anything that you need our help with, or we could maybe try to provide you some other ideas or activities. You know, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, if there's something you're watching this going, I need them to talk about, you know, this thing in math. Yeah, let us know. We'd be happy to do it. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear feedback or hear from you about some of the great things you guys are doing with your students through this virtual teaching. So we have our contact information up there on the screen, and please do not hesitate to reach out either if there's anything in particular that you guys like a topic or a tool that you would like Mike and I to cover. We'd be happy to do that.
Also, go to KRESA.org. The entire organization has been putting resources together for teachers, parents, anybody working with kids. There's just about anything you can find in there. We will have our videos as well as any resources that came with the videos, whether it was digital resources or printable things. Those will all be stored right there alongside our videos. And so if you see something you want, go right there and you can have access to whatever you need to do this on your own. We will see you soon. Thank you.
Bye, thank you.